So I was with the Nets on Saturday night in Milwaukee. They had a really good win.
Yeah.
They shut down Giannis down the stretch. It was really surprising to see Giannis not be able to impact that game. And Greeny, after the game, we're not allowed in the locker rooms these days, but I was standing outside the locker room, and there was a lot of celebration with the Nets. The music was turned up loud. They were yelling. They were having a great night because, number one, they thought it was a great win. They'd lost 13 out of 15, so to win in Milwaukee was huge for them. Two, they were under the belief that an announcement was going to come from New York City early this week that was going to clear the way for Kyrie Irving to play in home games. There was momentum in that direction. Kyrie was very excited. Kyrie went so far as to say after that game, he thanked Adam Silver for taking one for the team. He put Adam Silver on his team for what Adam said about the mandates in New York City. I'm not sure that's what Adam wants, but that's where Kyrie's mind was at. So after that momentum, now the announcement comes, and it doesn't look like Kyrie is going to get that clearance. And I am told that, this has been reported elsewhere as well, but I am told that Ben Simmons should now be considered week to week, which means not this week and likely not next week. So we're now going to be into mid-March, probably at the earliest, because his back is now acting up on him, says the Nets. It just stops and starts with them. So Durant should be back this week. History would tell me, Greeny, that it would be ridiculous to bring in major pieces of a team in March and all of a sudden that all fall into place, especially if they're having to play from the back of the field, like 7 or 8 or 6 seed. So I feel a little bit awkward about where they're at, but they have Durant, they have Irving. If eventually he's allowed to play in home games, which that door is still open, they still can do some major damage. I just am not optimistic about it at this point.
Yeah, and the Simmons of it all, like what exactly do we expect him to be? Because when we go back, and you can't always distill a player's career down to one moment or one series. But with Simmons, it clearly is so much about that. His complete lack of willingness to be an offensive option in that series they lost to Atlanta last year suggests that in games in which they don't, if there are games in which they don't have Kyrie, like half of them, they didn't trade for their second option. You know what I mean? Like James Harden was that. Ben Simmons is not going to be anywhere close to that. So I'm trying to figure out how that looks. I guess this is a long-winded way of my saying I feel like ultimately the decision on Kyrie is going to determine everything. If Kyrie is able to play all their games, I like the Nets to win the East. And if he isn't, then I don't. Does that make sense?
I think if you have a team with Kevin Durant on it, anything is possible.
Yeah.
If you told me that the Nets were in the finals, I wouldn't try to talk you out of it. I just think there's so many preposterous variables with this team. It's hard to see how it all aligns. I see it all on the board, and I can shove it into a shape that it makes sense. It's just hard for me to see how it all aligns, especially as I look down there at Miami and see how well they're playing and that they've got a stretch coming up here where they play 10 out of 11 at home. And I think they're a shoo-in to get the number 1 seed. And I see how Philly is playing. And I know that Giannis is almost unstoppable when he's at the top of his game. And I think they got to somehow figure out a way to beat all 3 of those teams possibly without home court advantage, without knowing what Simmons is going to be. You're right, Greeny, but I can't sit here and say that I'm optimistic.
All right, fair enough. One more thing with you, Wendy. Before you came on, we were talking about the Lakers because Shaquille O'Neal was on CNBC today, and he said, well, I'll play it for you. The idea was, the question was essentially, they were talking about the Lakers getting booed the other night, can they win with LeBron? And Shaquille O'Neal issued this cautionary message.
If you trade LeBron, you'll never win again. So you have to, make a decision. If you put LeBron around the right guys, he's definitely going to win. So, I think whoever put that team together needs to step up and try to fix it. And, maybe the guys could try to salvage the season by just saying, hey, we got 20 games left. Let's just play hard every game and, see where we can take it.
So if you get rid of LeBron, you are doomed. What is your sense of all this? No one has been around LeBron James longer than you have. You have a really good understanding of his psychology and his mentality approaching this kind of stuff. What is your sense of the LeBron of it all in L.A. looking beyond this season?
Shaq is right. It would be a terrible move, not only for your short term, but for your long term, because when you'd want to recruit stars to play for you in the future, they would know that you did that to one of the all-time greats. There was a reason why the Lakers gave Kobe Bryant a $50 million contract, even though he had a torn Achilles. It was because it was important to show that they take care of their players. That's meaningful in a place like LA where you're trying to get stars. And at the end of the day, Greeny, Anthony Davis and LeBron James, when healthy and focused, are two top 10 players in the league. If you have two top 10 players in the league, you have a chance. The rest of the situation is a mess. The management around this roster has been poor. LeBron is involved with that, absolutely, but he does not bear the sole responsibility. Just as LeBron helped deliver the championship, and he got help from the front office there, the same is true here. If you get Anthony Davis back healthy and you have LeBron and you get into a play-in situation, I like your chances in a one-game thing, and then you get into a playoffs and then you fight. Obviously, their situation is not great. It's a big disappointment. But before LeBron James walked into L.A. and said, I'm going to play for you in 2018, they were in the wilderness for 6 years. Yeah. No playoffs, 6 years. 3 consecutive years, top 2 picks. None of those things were able to get them out and back into relevance until LeBron James walked in the door. And he didn't walk in the door because of great management or anything like that. He wanted to be in LA and he wanted to play in the purple and gold. And so you have to stick with that and ride it until forevermore. And one of the things that became clear in the wake of the All-Star game was that LeBron didn't really want to leave L.A. He just wants to pressure L.A. That's why he tried to walk back his comments a little bit, because he doesn't want to leave the Lakers. He just wants the Lakers to exhaust everything to make sure that his teams are the best.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.